What's up, fam? Hope everybody's doing fantastic out there today. We are taking a look at a pretty special knife. This is one that you can no longer get. It was from what I can tell, is a very limited run, and this is coming way of my buddy on Instagram, Ian. So again, shout out to you for letting me take a look at some pretty awesome knives. But this is the Grambeau Russ EDC, and this one's even more special because it was modified by Valley Blade Works. So here we have that information. So it was vapor honed, and then they finished the scales and blade. It is a bronze with silver accents, and yeah, really cool stuff. This is a knife I quite honestly missed when it happened. I've seen it since, like when it's after its release, when it was already sold out, but I quite frankly didn't recognize it until I got it in hand. And then I recognized, some of the parts of the knife that I'd already known about. But it's a really cool thumb stud and front flipper knife. And you guys know that is a kind of a weakness of mine. I really do enjoy a good thumb stud with a good front flipper because it makes it really easy to fidget with. I do a rollover with my front flippers. I really never use my thumbs because it's just awkward for me, but doing the rollover works well. And then reverse flicking a set of thumb studs is pretty sweet if you have a good set. And these are definitely done well. Let's go ahead and jump into some specs on this thing. So it is a Bestech OEM knife. They are running MagnaCut at 61 to 63. All right, so you're looking at a 3.2 inch blade. It is 0.93 inches tall, and I think I did measure that up here behind the thumb stud to include that little raised up portion there. And it's a 3.5 millimeter blade stock, and it is just 0.5 millimeters behind the edge. They do list that on their website. I tried to verify it as best I could. I've never really been good at checking that, but it did get pretty close, so I'm pretty sure that's accurate. Handle, we're looking at a 4.33 inch handle. At its highest point, we're looking at just over 1 inch, 1.01 inches to be exact. And it is 0.53, so just over half an inch in width here. And I think that is actually measured right here at the stud, or excuse me, at the pivot. That was the highest point. And then at the clip, we are at 0.67. 7.68 inches overall, so right in that sweet spot for what I enjoy in an EDC knife. And your carry profile is just 1.2 inches, so measured right here at its highest point, 1.2 inches, and really only 3.8 ounces, which really surprised me for a knife that has contoured titanium. Typically, contouring the titanium, running contour titanium, it typically makes the knives a little heavier, and then this one being a inset liner lock as well, or it might even be, I don't know, it might just be like some sort of an inset frame lock, because this part here on the outside is actually bolted in. We'll see that here when we go close up. But it does look like it is just kind of a almost like a modified version of a frame lock, which is pretty cool. One of the things that really caught my attention when I first started messing with the knife. So it is hollow ground as well. And then also it uses a 4 millimeter hex on the pivot and back here on the back spacer. So a very interesting makeup here. So let's go ahead and jump into the close-ups on this thing, and we will go from there. All right, so here we have the Grambeau logo or marking there on the pivot, and there you can see that massive 4 millimeter pivot that goes straight through, so there you can check that out. Really nice frag pattern here. It's definitely not rough at all. Now, I don't know what this would have felt like from the factory, as this does have an aftermarket finish done to it, but I would assume they didn't cut it down too much. Really nicely contoured and chamfered here. Going around, we have a barrel spacer here that acts as the sole body piece, and that is a 4 millimeter hex on that as well, but you could also use that as a lanyard hole if you don't plan on taking the knife apart that much. Now, this is a used knife. He does carry his knife, so there is going to be some wear and tear and a little bit of pocket junk in here. Now, I did carry this knife a little bit as well. I really, really enjoy this knife. This is one that, like I said, I really hate I missed out on because it was such a nice knife. So, really nice pocket clip here. They did take advantage and make a smooth landing pad there underneath the pocket clip, so that way you can not have to worry about tearing up your clothing. And then you can see the T8 screws there and one underneath that clip, to where if you wanted to take this panel off, you could certainly do so. There you see the MagnaCut branding. Really nice functional jimping here on the very, very minimum front flipper. Thumb studs, again, are done well. They are a low profile stud, but they have plenty of traction to them. And being Bestech, of course, it's going to be perfectly centered, and that tip is close to good, or close to perfect, but there is just a slight off grind there. Not too awful worried about that. Very, very minimum there. Standard drop point with a swedge on the back. We have a 3/4 height hollow grind. And I believe this is a Valley Blade Works finish on the blade. So again, that's kind of another reason why I'm not super worried about that little bit of an off grind on the tip, just because I know that this knife potentially has been sharpened, and if that's the case, that could have happened at that point. But it's very, very, very minimum. And again, there is your branding there. This is number 148. Really decent plunge grind. I say really decent because it's definitely not the best I've seen. It's definitely not the worst. It would be better if there was a little bit of a more of a sharpening choil there, but you do have plenty of room to get to that edge without hitting that thumb stud, and you've got some sharpening life there. So again, really not too worried about that. The edge itself looks good. I'd say it's held up pretty well. Looking at the edge again, I don't know that this has been sharpened, just because this does kind of look like a factory Bestech edge. So maybe they tried to mimic that factory edge as best as they could, but it definitely looks like a factory finished edge from what I'm used to seeing from Bestech. Lockup is phenomenal, and then lock bar access is insanely good. I mean, this is really, really comfortable to unlock, extremely fidgety. The action is phenomenal. Absolutely no issues with this knife at all. I mean, just absolute killer execution on here. The design is really nice as well. It's very ergonomic. It feels great in the hand. Pocket clip disappears. You don't feel any rough edges or hard edges because it's essentially a liner lock, or it feels like essentially a liner lock, so you don't have any of the gapping here that would create a hot spot on your finger. And you have a nice little landing pad up here. If you do need to choke up on the knife, you can certainly do so. And then again, like I said, the action is just very, very silky smooth. Borderline hydraulic. It just takes just a little bit of shake just to get it all the way down there. But it's super, super, super smooth. And I would imagine just taking this thing apart, giving it a good clean would enhance that action even more. And I'll likely do that for Ian as a thank you for letting me check these knives out. I'll likely take these apart. Of course, I'll send him an email first and make sure that he's okay with that. But really, really, really good stuff. You got tons of weight relieving inside there that does make up for that weight, and that's you can kind of see that right there. You can see those cutouts in there. So yeah, really, really cool. Now it's going to be difficult to check the hardware here. I've only got one T8 screw that's visible, so we'll check that one T8 there, and it's typical of Bestech, no issues at all. And then I do have a 4mm bit. It's not from a might help if I put it on the right side. It's not from the best set in the world, but I mean, I don't have a whole lot of play there, so that machining seems done very well. Same thing there, and you've got good screw depth as well, so I mean, the screw goes in a decent way, so it's not going to easily slip out of there. So again, no issues with that at all. Now I did check the kind of the edge geometry on this thing. I did a little bit of light cutting with it, and it performed really well. It slices quite well, and like I said, it is in that kind of perfect size category for me. So again, this will probably be one that I end up adding to the acquire list at some point. Going into our size comparisons, we have the usual suspects, Penguin and Pyrite. And then coming in, we've got the Kaiser Drop Bear. Then we're looking at the Militaw. So the Militaw will be just slightly larger than the Russ here. Very cool. All right. Coming in with the Bel Air. And then the Malibu. And lastly, we've got the PM2, which is going to be larger just by probably, I don't know, half an inch there, quarter of an inch. Kind of hard to tell from that angle, but an exact length anyway. And then the MSI, which is going to be considerably larger. So very, very cool knife. Kind of a quick and dirty video for you guys. Usually it takes a little bit longer to do hardware check, etc. And on this one, there's just not that much. So this, like I said, this is one that really flew under the radar for me. So I'm interested to see if any of you guys knew about this knife. And if you did, what are your thoughts on it? And if you didn't pick it up, other than, of course, money, because that's the main reason I wouldn't have been able to pick it up at the time. But other than financial reasons, is there a reason that you didn't purchase the knife? If so, let me know in the comments down below. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you. Please remember to be kind, be humble, and be EDC. Take care.